Logan, Logan, that didn't, it's not advancing. It needs to be, I think it needs to be live, or from the first slide. From the beginning. Because it's not advancing here. Did I turn it on?
Here we go. Should be.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Oops, we're on the wrong screen.
There we go. I can just do the slide advance, that's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna set this. Yeah, I'll come down to your office and try to get this fixed.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
But we're live. All right, welcome everybody. It's good to see you here. I hope you guys had a good week. There's a lot of chatter going on. I mean, this group is really amazing. It's hard to follow everything that's going on. I tried to weigh in on a few things over the week, but we just are very excited that you're here and so engaged. I'm going to introduce you to my dad as the weeks go on. He's got kind of an interesting story, but he's being inducted into the Ohio State Track and Field Hall of Fame on Friday, but he's been in the hospital for like 3 out of the last 4 weeks with an infection that he's recovering from, but he's weak. So we transferred him to Columbus Star Hospital last week for rehab. So we want to get him able to walk up and get this award. But because he's here, my mom's here in the front row. So, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit more about her. And then there's another person that's very embarrassed that I'm going to mention him, but my brother's in the back. He just moved here from Colorado, and actually from the Denver area. So yeah. He said he's got a new job. He's moving back to Ohio. I said, where? And he said, Mayberry. That's why he moved back. So don't disappoint him. Okay, so I'm having a little problems with this, but we'll have a guest speaker tonight, Dr. Exley, who's going to take sort of the middle portion. Look how good that timing is. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the highlights of last week, and then we want to have some time for questions and answers at the end. So, did you guys do okay with your assignments this week? Let's see, was there anything difficult? It wasn't too difficult this week, I don't think. Anybody make comments on that? What you asked you to do? One thing we didn't emphasize is the journals. I didn't really emphasize that, but that's really important to do the journaling. We've given you small assignments each week. Research shows that if you journal regularly, it makes you more engaged and more focused on what you're trying to change. So we don't want to overwhelm you with little goals and little things to do. So we try to build on it and keep it simple. But that little companion journal is really important for you to use if you can, if you will. All right, so a couple things that I was trying to emphasize last week, or in this week's lecture, is how quickly the body can change. And this shows you what inflammation will do to the lining of your intestines. So you see that image there on the left. That's what your intestines look like when you magnify it. This is what it looks like after you've had an inflammatory diet. So fast food, sugars, all the packaged processed stuff we're not supposed to eat. It basically, we call this denuding. It just really blunts. It changes the surface area of your intestinal tract. I don't remember if we've talked about this, or maybe I presented it last in the videos you watched, but do you remember what you have in common with 2 tennis courts side by side? The surface area of your intestinal tract, right? So it's huge, and it's your intestinal tract also is the second highest region for your immune system to be low. Actually, 70% of your immune system is located in your intestinal tract, because that's where most stuff gets in, and your body says, we got to protect you so the bad stuff doesn't come in. So immunity is really linked to gut health. This lower image shows you how quick the lining of your arteries change. So on the left is a healthy artery, and on the right is a naked, damaged, injured artery. And that also happens quickly. So this happens both ways. You can damage it quickly and you can heal it quickly, often within 24 hours based on the food that's presented in your body. So really important concept that you might not feel like you're healing or changing when you stand on the scales every week or every day, or when you look in the mirror, but your body responds very quickly to what you do to it. We talked about the fact that one of the puzzle pieces to weight loss, it's not calories in and calories out. It's not exercising the fat off. It's really eating correctly so that you can heal everything. And one of the places it heals is your gut, the bacteria in your gut. I think I mentioned there's, for every one cell you have, which is considered maybe 80 trillion cells in your body, you have 6 bacteria for every one of you. So there's more of them living on you than there are you living in you. And you need to make sure those bacteria are balanced and healthy, and a healthy diet will do that. Conversely, the bad diet will disrupt this balance and cause you to have gut problems. So I demonstrated or I talked about this study that was done with mice, and they gave the mice a low-fat, plant polysaccharide-rich diet, and they switched that's the healthy diet. That's the food from the produce section, and they switched it over to a high-fat, high-sugar Western diet, and they saw that these bacteria in our gut change within one day of those two extremes in diet. And they change their genetic expressions. The genes that they make change that quickly. Here's another example of how fast our body changes. And then this study was pretty cool because you can make the argument, I'm obese because everybody in my family is obese. Well, here's a really good study that says no, there's more to it than that. So you have identical twins. One twin is lean and one twin is obese. That's genetically the same person, right? Something happened to the obese twin to become obese. Something didn't happen the same way to the lean twin. So, and what we talked about last week is epigenetics. The environment changes our bodies. So this person was in the wrong environment compared to this person. But then what they did is they took, they had healthy mice, same strain of mice, and they took a small amount of feces. I know it sounds disgusting, but research, you can do anything with animals. So you take a small amount of feces, mix it with water, and you inject it into the rectum of these mice, and then nothing else changes. They have the same food, both groups, same food, same exercise, same lights, same, everything is exactly the same, except one group becomes obese and the other group stays lean. Okay, and the difference here is the quality of the bacteria in this obese individual gets transferred to this mouse, and those bacteria that are imbalanced will cause a mouse to gain weight. So you can probably assume if you're overweight, the bacterial content in your gut is not healthy. The reason it's not healthy is because you're not eating right, or maybe you're taking too many antibiotics or too many Nexium tablets or Pepcid or whatever you're doing to change the health of your gut. So this is just showing you again this study. I showed you this image earlier of how quickly this changes with a high sugar meal. We talked a little bit about nitric oxide. This is a powerful compound that our bodies make to enhance blood flow. Hopefully you got that. I can't tell you how important this is in everything you do, whether it's thinking clearly, whether it's erectile dysfunction, controlling blood pressure, having better wind when you exercise. Nitric oxide should be a treatment for COVID patients because it enhances blood flow to the lungs and oxygen delivery to the tissues. And your body makes nitric oxide. You just don't make it as well as you age because of your lifestyle changes. And the reason you don't make it as well is because of this key word right here, epigenetics. The environment triggers what genes you're going to make because of the environment you put yourself in. So if you want to get these, this is the place to get them. This is what it looks like. Neo 40. Mako's carries these in 60, a 60 pack for about $90. And when I checked online, I think this is the price for Amazon, which I thought, hey, that's a great deal. But then when somebody brought it in, there was only 30 lozenges. I thought it was 60, so it's only 30. So it's maybe a little bit cheaper than at Mako's, but you can get the blister of 60 of these. Dr. Bryan is, you can't see this on the slide here on the screen, but Dr. Nathan Bryan is the author of this. Excellent research. If you Google Dr. Nathan Bryan and Neo 40, just watch some of the 3-4 minute videos. You'll be really impressed. I watched one of his presentations to a group of doctors, and it was 60 minutes. It took me 3 hours because I stopped. Almost every sentence he said, I stopped to take notes on it. It was that impressive. Let me just show you if this technology will work. I want to show you something. When I listened to one of his talks, I recorded it on my phone. And fortunately, Logan helped me to get this off my phone into a PowerPoint. I use this in the office 3 or 4 times a day to explain to people why this is so important. Now, Logan, I'm not sure what I have to hit for this to play. Do you know? Because I don't see the caret here on this presentation. So it might be down here. Okay. Now how do I pause that?
Same thing.
Just
So your cursor's over here right now.
okay, so I can stop it and start it, right? Okay, good. All right, so what he's explaining here is this is an ultrasound of the carotid artery in your neck. And you can't see much yet. I'll show you in a second. But he's saying 10 minutes after you take this lozenge, he's showing you how much it dilates the blood vessel. And then he's explaining what it can do. Now, hopefully you guys can hear what he's saying. If not, I'll just translate it for you. Oops, shoot, did that wrong, Logan. Yeah. There we go.
This is left column carotid ultrasound. You can see the internal luminal diameter of 0.52 centimeters.
You can't see that yet, just hang on. There it goes.
The lozenge, the carotid is opened up to 0.6 centimeters. That's a 13% increase in blood vessel diameter. If you use simple laws of hemodynamics, that's a 34% increase in blood flow. This is very clinically meaningful because every brain and neurological disease is determined or characterized by hypoperfusion or low blood flow. So if you can restore blood flow to certain regions of the brain, for instance in vascular dementia, the prefrontal cortex, you improve blood flow, you improve cognition.
Did everybody hear that? Okay. 34% increase in blood flow to the brain, which means 34% increased blood flow everywhere. If you're struggling with your thinking, that can help. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
How long does it last for one shot?
That's the question. He says when you first start taking this, you take it twice a day, and then after that, it's once a day. I was taking it just hit and miss for my blood pressure, and it wasn't working. Once I started religiously doing this, twice a day for the first month, and then once a day every day, my blood pressures that would creep up sometimes in the 150s and I'd give this dull headache, they're lower than they've ever been. They're in the 120s and 110s now. So pretty impressive. I take this before I play basketball just to help me with extra wind. This next one is also pretty impressive. This is same concept, and it shows you what happens with an atherogenic diet, which is what causes heart disease. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this explanation.
In this slide here, this is real-time intravital microscopy of an atherogenic diet, and you can see the inflammation that's occurring in the lining of the blood vessel.
So this is the blood vessel, and I'm not sure you can see it clearly, but he's saying there's inflammation here. And these little white things are white blood cells. And what they do is they stick to the lining of the artery, and they're going to penetrate the artery when they see a cholesterol deposit. And when they get in that they try to swallow that cholesterol deposit up, and it converts that white blood cell into this big, fluffy, junky cell called a foam cell. that's when atherosclerosis, all the plaque builds up. That's a bad thing for it to do. We don't want the white blood cells doing what they're doing in this image.
These are monocytes and neutrophils that are sticking to the line of the blood vessel. In fact, the blood vessels become almost like Velcro. Everything sticks, platelets become hyperactive, and this is setting the stage for full-blown atherosclerotic disease. If we get that same atherogenic diet, but we fix the nitric oxide production pathways, you can see that the blood vessels more dilated. These immune cells home along the endothelium looking for sites of injury, but they don't stick, they don't migrate. You completely inhibit the inflammation, oxidative stress, and immune dysfunction that occurs in cardiovascular disease simply by restoring the production of nitric oxide.
That's pretty impressive. Anybody with heart disease should be taking this. So if you Google him and you start looking at some of his short little videos, you'll see this with better graphics. This is just a picture, of the blood vessel, and it shows you how it over time you make less and less of this. So if you're 50 and your nitric oxide production is 35% and you're a man, you're probably not going to maintain your erections very well. If we give you Viagra or Cialis, you're making enough for it to work. But if you get down to 15% nitric oxide, even Viagra and Cialis aren't going to work for erection problems. But after just what I just showed you, what should you be more worried about as a man than erections if you're only making that much nitric oxide? Heart disease, exactly. That's what I tell my patients. You can have Viagra, but we might need to do a stress test here. So that's really good. You guys got that. Excellent. Okay, so Debbie sent me a message today because she started taking the nitric oxide supplement. Do you want to just briefly tell them what happened?
You're gonna eventually make me comfortable as far as public speaking.
I'm going to eventually have you teach in the class.
Now, let me come up here so you don't have to turn around. Okay, so we'll back up just a little bit. Around the holidays, my husband tested positive for COVID. I tested negative 3 times, but I had the symptoms worse than him. I ended up on prednisone twice, two prescriptions of it. Sat up in the chair to breathe. Oh, you want me to get over here? Oh, do I need to start over again? All right, so long story short, I had COVID even though the test said I didn't have COVID. Because I was sitting in a chair to breathe at night, I was coughing, I was on Duaneb treatments. He kept me out of the hospital with 2 rounds of steroids. So after that, I really didn't feel right. So then I start getting these palpitations. I'm like, man, what's the matter? So I'm on blood pressure medicine. And I was already taking Neo40 once a day. So he said, increase the Neo40 to twice a day, like you initially did when you started it. Well, I did that, and I was playing pickleball, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm spinning. Well, I went home, checked my blood pressure, it was like 104 over 80 some. So the Neo40 definitely opened up those blood vessels because, I don't know, you did a better job explaining it as far as like COVID and what it does to the vessel. So I have an underlying autoimmune problem. They're not really sure what I have. It's some kind of inflammatory thing anyway. Lupus, connective tissue disease, who knows. But by changing my diet and doing this program, my CRP, which essentially is like an inflammatory marker, should be like around 3, I think, or less. I was like 36. And that was on medicine that was supposedly supposed to keep it under control. So then I get COVID and I'm all messed up. But by taking this Neo40 twice a day, it's opened my blood vessels up. And I sent him a message. I said, I started decreasing my losartan hydrochlorothiazide in half because I really didn't want to be one of all these people you have to understand that I play pickleball with are like there's an 89-year-old, an 85-year-old. I'm like the youngster. I didn't want to be on the floor. So I don't know, I never got a chance to read your message. Is that what you wanted me to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, it really
you're
opened
going to
up.
have to stop your blood pressure medicine. I'm really sorry.
And that was my goal. Really, I want to try to get off my medicine. I was able to get off my Plaquenil, which really was nasty stuff, did nasty stuff to my legs and my nerves and my feet. I was having trouble walking. I stopped that in 18. after I did the Fit for Life program. So food is, you gotta watch sugar, it's so inflammatory. Did I say everything you wanted me to?
Perfect,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
So I can stop my blood
You
pressure
got the
medicine?
lecture next week.
Oh. He knows I don't like to get up here.
Okay, we talked about telomeres too, when you watch a TV show and they say, oh, your chronological age is 46, but physiologically you're 59. How do they figure that out? This is how they do it. They look at your chromosomes and how quickly this end cap gets cut off. Every time your cell divides, it snips a little bit off. You can see right here, every cell division, you're snipping that off until it snips so much off that little protective coating, the telomere at the end, is no more there, and it starts to unravel. And just like a shoestring would unravel and get frayed bad, when you get to this point in your life, you go downhill quick. So we want our telomeres to be, we want this process to be very slow, because that slows the aging process. And that's how we know, that's how we predict if somebody's aging fast or slowly. And this was just, the study that I got this information from, and this is the key slide. If you want to slow the aging process down, this is what the study said. This wasn't me, this is the study. But you know most of this, right? Smoking. If you smoke 1 pack a day for 40 years, you'll shorten your life by 7.5 years, on average. Obesity shortens your life by 10 years. So all these things, stress can shorten the life for 10 years because it affects the telomeres. You divide them quicker. And then if you want to keep them longer, those are the lifestyle changes, which is all part of what we're doing. So what we're telling you to do here, this is going to slow your aging process. Okay, so we talked about how fast we can heal, right? And these are the things that change quickly when we start eating right and doing the right things. Our gut heals quickly, the lining of our arteries, our metabolism, our brain health, all those things heal fast. So I'm going to pause here and introduce Dr. Exley. You didn't know I was going to do this, did you? I found all this on the internet about you. So I don't know if you like the picture or not, but it doesn't matter because it's already up there. So Dr. Exley was with our program several years ago. We had a grant that allowed us to partner with the Chrysalis Counseling Center. And it was really neat because the participants, when they bought the program, they got, I don't know, two or three counseling sessions with you or your colleagues, because there's a lot of emotional stuff we all have to go through when we're trying to make changes. So it really worked nice. It's not part of, this isn't a grant-funded class now, but we invited her to come and share some things on mindfulness that we thought might help you, because she always does a great job with that. So she's coming on her own time without being paid. So we really want to thank her and appreciate her for spending a few minutes with us tonight. So come on up.
Gosh, you're applauding before I even say anything. That's pretty awesome. I like that. And I don't have to give my own intro, so that's awesome. So this is interesting. So I am a member of the American Psychological Association, also have training in hypnosis, which is intriguing and interesting, and something called EMDR. Anybody heard of EMDR? No. Okay, it's used a lot with trauma, but it kind of helps to shift people's beliefs about themselves. That's kind of what the main thrust of why I'm here today is. You guys are going to get a ton of information. You already have, I think every time Dr. McKnight does this, he does a different iteration, because I was involved with the program a while back for a considerable amount of time, and he had been doing it even before that, and all that stuff he just presented, I don't remember, and I have a pretty good memory, so I think that's all new stuff. So he is a continual learner, and I think the aspect, that's all stuff that's sciencey stuff that's not really in my world or what I do. I'm in the world of psychology and mental health and thoughts and feelings and all that, but those things go together. I don't know how much the manual has changed over time or not. Do you guys still get a workbook? Does it still look like this? Oh, see, iterations, okay. So I kind of pulled out mine because when I first got involved, I thought, well, before I talk about anything related to this program, I really should know what the heck it's about, right? It only makes sense. And so I filled out my own answers as far as, you know, why would you be interested in having a healthier lifestyle? And it's so interesting because now I'm looking back at what were my beliefs then, what things are the same, what things are different. And I really appreciate that from the very beginning, Dr. McKnight focuses on that emotional, mental aspect of it, because you probably have been exposed to some of this information that's in the manual many times over, right? But why are you here? Why are there still issues? Why have you not had the results you wanted to have? Something's keeping you stuck, something about your belief system. You know, so what are belief systems? It's what do I think about myself, either from a mental standpoint that I'm aware of my thoughts, you know, what thoughts do I have subconsciously that I may not even be aware of? How does that affect my emotions and my feelings about things? The reason that this is at the beginning of the program is that if you're not on track to begin with, what's the point of everything else, right? If there's some blockage emotionally or psychologically, you're not going to be on track. So I'm going to probably lose all of my credibility as a psychologist by telling you that I was watching zombie house flipping. Anybody watch that? Oh man, okay. I don't highly recommend it, but anyway. So I'm on HGTV a lot, right? So I'm flipping through, and so this zombie house flipping is always finding some really rotten-looking house, and they're fixing it up. Well, what they did, or supposedly did, because you know it's all for show. There was a house that had a bad roof. So supposedly it took some time for the roofers to come. So in the meantime, they have redone several floors, and it keeps raining, and their tarps keep not covering, and so there's water on these freshly redone floors. And I'm like, well, duh, fix the roof. Why are you doing the floor when you need to fix the roof? So in a way, this is sort of giving you the roof, right? So that everything you learn from here on, you're sort of figuring out how does that fit in with what I may be saying to myself, what I may be, my emotions that may be impeding me or blocking me from moving forward. So, you know, Dr. McKnight is doing it in the proper way. You know, let's get the structure there first, and then all that other information can kind of flow from there. So as far as beliefs, like I said, you may not be aware of what your beliefs are. Sometimes we have to look at our behaviors. You know, if I think it's important to eat healthy, but yet my first stop on the way home is McDonald's, well, something's not matching up, right? And our negative beliefs about ourselves can be related to choice, like I'm weak, right? Gonna think about that. Or power, I can't succeed, you know, I'm a failure. Maybe that a parent said that to you early on, maybe a teacher, maybe a friend. So, you know, when you look at what are the things that are getting in my way of being able to do these things, of taking these actions, don't be afraid to go there. Because that's how you're really going to invest in this program, is if you let yourself go there emotionally and see what the hang-ups are. It might be how you value yourself. I'm not important. A lot of women, you know, kind of put other people first, you know, as moms or as caregivers, spouses. You know, I'm just not important. You may not think that you think that, but when you look at your behavior and what you're doing and the choices you're making, your behavior might tell you otherwise. So really, it may seem like, I don't really want to write in this journal. I'm a huge fan of journaling, by the way. Got one at home, I've got one at work, because sometimes I go to work and I've got stuff. You know, I live a life, I have a family. I came from a family. And so sometimes when I have this stuff on my mind and I can't focus, I've got to jot something down. And usually it's not even very long before I just kind of write what's on my mind and go, oh, that's what that was. Or just, oh, that's here, and I can set it aside, and now I can do my work. So maybe now it's, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm struggling with making these better choices, but I've kind of let my thought process happen, and I have a place for it. So I'm a huge fan of journaling. It's not like you have to do it at any particular time of day for any length of time, but after you do it a little while, you'll just have the urge to, I gotta get this stuff out. And especially if you don't have someone who is close to you emotionally, friend, brother, sister, your journal kind of becomes your friend. It won't tell anybody anything, it keeps it confidential. I'm a paper and pencil kind of gal, but some people do notes or journal on their phones. I don't know. Everybody has their method. Or keyboarding. Old research shows that paper and pencil, for some reason, and I don't know if it's because of the time it takes, usually is a little more effective, but if it's keyboarding or nothing, use whatever works for you. So really looking at what are the things that deep down I'm going through. So take your time with those entries, really dig deep, let yourself go there. The other phenomenal thing about this program is that this is a huge class. I don't know, I guess I'm just so COVID-ized that, I don't even know what it's like to be in a classroom anymore, but that's where I have always thrived in my education. So, each of you is kind of have some commonality as far as wanting to be healthier, wanting to lose weight, whatever the reason. So use each other as a support. There used to be a Facebook page. I'm only a little bit on Facebook now. I know, I'm an old timer. But there's a Facebook page so you can communicate and share thoughts, struggles, tips. Hey, this worked for me. Hey, I'm having a hard time with this. What have you guys used? So use each other as support. What else did I want to say? I think that's for the most part what I wanted to let you know is to kind of be aware of the stuff going on under the surface, not just coursing through your veins, but emotionally, psychologically, look at that stuff, kind of, see what may be going on there. Because once you unlock that, a number of people will tell you that was the key for them, the turning point, so that they could be successful and make the kinds of changes they needed to make. I have brought along brochures. See, I told you, old-fashioned. And these are really old, but we're thrifty folks at Chrysalis Counseling Center. We're not going to throw away decent brochures. There's only 9 therapists listed in here. We now have 12. Several of the people listed on here are not there anymore. So, but what is accurate is the address, the phone number, the fax number, and our website. So we do have a website, which honestly probably it's not as interactive as some are, but it's got basic information for you. So Kelly will have these in the back for you so that you can locate any of our therapists. And if you feel like this would be something helpful for you and you're curious, interested, give us a call. We'll try to make sure to get you in a reasonable amount of time. I'll let you know that there are a lot of people who COVID is affecting, whether they've had it or not, just our environment, just what's going on in the world. So it used to be very easy to get you an appointment. So you may have to be patient and kind of bear with us as we try to help everybody in the community who's looking for help. So any questions? Nope. All righty. Well, if you think I earned applause, give me some more. If not, you're fine. Thank you. Good to see you. Take my homework with me.
So 2 things about what Dr. Exley said. First of all, we are so glad you came from a family. Glad we got that clarified. And secondly, what she said about journaling and asking questions, that is so, so important. It was in the way, wasn't it? In functional medicine, which is a really great type of medicine to practice, they don't even begin to diagnose you or think about a diagnosis until they've answered 4 lines of questions. So for example, my joints hurt. Why do they hurt? Well, because I'm inflamed. Why am I inflamed? Because I've got a leaky gut. Why do I have leaky gut? Because I'm not eating right. What has caused the leaky gut? Well, steroids and antibiotics and junk food. And why are you making those choices to eat junk food? So you get to the bottom of things before you even begin to come up with a remedy. That's a really good way to practice good medicine. Not your blood pressure's high, here's the pill, right? I mean, that's what Debbie got, that's what most of us get. Why is it high? The nitric oxide level's not working. How do we fix that? How do we supplement that? So that's kind of what journaling does. And if you can't get to the root causes of your emotional states or your thoughts that you know are detrimental, and you're journaling and you're just not understanding why you're doing those things, that's when you get help. And those counseling services are excellent. We're all dysfunctional to some degree. We all need some help. And there's nothing wrong with seeking out help to become more enlightened about why we're doing the things we are. So we talked in the lecture about readiness to change. Hopefully you're here because you're ready to change. We talked about how important it is to take a good, honest look at yourself and be aware of your surroundings. And I think maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to do this right now. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to look around at all the red objects in the room. Did you guys do this? Oh, we don't have to do it. Okay. You know the point there, right? You see what you're looking for. And just because you don't see it, that means it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Okay, so we just need to really be more aware of what's going on inside us and around us. Okay, and then we talked about the origin of our behavior. And our behaviors are driven not by what we know, they're driven by how we feel. I can't emphasize that enough. When my behavior is not what it should be, in my mind, I know this is really stupid, you're being irrational, you're being overreactive, but there's an emotion behind that driving that. And so that's important that we understand that, and that emotions aren't just emotions, they're chemicals. Every emotion has a chemical, and every chemical will last, the life of an emotional chemical is 90 seconds. Then that chemical is taken back up and the neurotransmitters are put in storage, unless you just harbor that thought over and over again. Why am I always a victim? See, that person shut the door right before I came in. There's another, I'm a victim. And then I slipped on the ice because they didn't put salt out in the parking lot. See, it happened to me again, and everything you're thinking is victimization. Those chemicals continue to bathe your cells and affect the health of your cells and the functioning and communication of your cells. So we talked about our belief systems are really the scripts, the things that we talk, our self-talk, and the things that we believe about ourselves. Some of it's good, but some of it's bad, and we have to change that. And we talked about the origin of these belief systems really happen very strongly from the age of 2 to 6, when our predominant wavelength in our brain is the theta wavelength. And right now you guys are all operating in the gamma wavelength, the higher frequency, because you're focusing, hopefully. A couple of you are kind of zoned out a little bit, but most of you are focused. But when you're the age of 2 to 6, you're just absorbing information. You're learning to survive in the environment. You're watching your mother, just like an animal watches, a cub watches its mom. How do I survive in this environment? When mom's crying, a 2 or 3-year-old will look up at mom and they'll start to cry, just because I think that's how I'm supposed to react in this situation. So a lot of learning comes in. At this age, they're not capable of reasoning. It's just absorb everything. This is when you teach them how to speak another language very easily, and their brain doesn't think, oh, I'm too young to learn that. That's a hard sound to make. No, they just do it. There's no doubt. But this is when all this information gets assimilated, and sometimes that information is not healthy. Sometimes what you're hearing is, you're a messy kid. You're always spilling food all over you, blah, 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 and that soon becomes their script and part of their identity. And sometimes we carry that with us our entire life, and we believe that script. And those scripts that are unhealthy, we just have to rewrite the scripts. Like, that was crazy, Mom. My mom didn't say that about messy, but Mom was wrong, or Dad was wrong, or my first and second grade teacher, they were clueless about who I really was, but they gave me messages that made me believe that's how I was. So that's critical, and it's critical that as adults that we help children have the right messages. But the point of this was not that you're stuck with those messages as a preschooler. The point of it is when you start to have those messages, I'm a messy kid, or I'm the fat kid, or I'm a slow kid, and the nerves start to connect, that's how you're going to continue to fire in your thoughts and emotions unless you reconnect, unless you change that. And next week, we're going to talk about how to change those connections, because the way you're wired in your brain physically is a reflection of how you're going to respond to different triggers in your life. And a lot of times those triggers send us off into dark places. And so we need to first recognize it, and then secondly, change it. So next week, we're going to talk about how to change those things. These are some of the belief systems that we can develop at any age, but especially at that young age. And those are the positive belief systems. So if we didn't get the right messaging when we were younger, we've got to start changing the messaging now. Okay, so belief systems are often triggered by all these different fears. And I wish Dr. Exley was still here to confirm what I want to say here, because I don't know if I said this in the lecture that you listened to, but when your behavior gets crazy, you know, a switch is flipped and you're just being irrational and upset and angry, you need to push the pause button and say, what am I afraid of? Because 9 times out of 10, you're acting, your anger is really a sign of fear. You're afraid of being rejected, abandoned, losing control, or failing. And my brother witnessed me doing this really well a couple days ago. I know he knew, he was like, you're being really off here today. But my 2 triggers when I go off on these dark places and I'm really irrational and emotional about stuff is this fear of losing control and failing. My life I'm spread so many directions right now. I told my mom on the way here, I'm always late, I'm always on the go. It's hard for me to just feel like and it's not that I'm not a control freak, but I'm just trying to control those areas of my life, and it's tough. And then when I feel like I'm failing, if I feel like I failed somebody here, or I failed a patient or a family member, that's tough. When I went 6 months without talking to my son, the reason I did that is I felt totally rejected and abandoned by him for some things that were said, and I was in the wrong. And once I realized that and realized it wasn't a rejection, I got over it. But when you have these really bad behaviors, push the pause button and say, what am I afraid of? And then you'll be able to start to heal. But those are belief systems, because you tell yourself stories. I was telling myself a story over the weekend when I was kind of losing it, because this and this and this, now this and this and this are going to happen. It was totally wrong. I was wasting energy on things that didn't come to pass. Okay, so there's a space between the stimulus. There's a trigger. You just said I'm dumb, or somebody made me feel dumb, and then I can say I can choose to act like I'm dumb and get upset, or I can respond differently. And I don't mind confessing. One of my issues this weekend, my brother and sister-in-law were there, my son and daughter-in-law were there. My wife and I were playing a new game that my sister-in-law brought. And I usually don't like games because they're too complicated for me, and it takes a while to learn them, and I don't play them enough. And I'm like, okay, I'll play. So when I'd be engaged in the family, I was terrible at it. They were like, don't you get that? Don't throw that card down. I'm like, I have a different strategy. So by the time the game was done, I was like in last place, and they were kind of laughing at me, and I was feeling stupid. And that's when I said, that's why I don't play games. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm not going to play this game ever again. And it sent me, I didn't push the pause button right there. I should have said, hey, just do your best, have fun. Don't ruin the day for these people. But I just went off on a tangent because I guess I was feeling kind of rejected maybe in a way, on top of a bunch of other stuff that was underlying it. So I feel better now that I've confessed my weakness. All right, but that's where we can recreate our future. And then sometimes this analogy, how heavy is this glass? You could hold that up for 30 seconds. Could you hold it up for 30 minutes or 3 hours? But that's what we do with our garbage in our life. We just keep it out there and we hang on to it, and we become burdened by it instead of just putting it down and casting it aside and leaving it. Okay, and then we talked about this, what happens when our conscious minds collide with our subconscious mind. So we set a goal, we're gonna lose 20 pounds and fit for life. And then 2 weeks into it, we've actually gained 2 pounds, and we're telling ourselves, this isn't gonna work any better than any other program you've done. See, I told you you can't do this. You fail at everything. You're always gonna have to be overweight. Your health isn't gonna get better, because those belief systems are really what drive everything. So we have to get to the root cause of these belief systems. That's where the journaling and reflection and counseling come in. And once we understand that, then we can start changing our course. But until that happens, you feel stuck. My wife, I used to love the Franklin Covey planner. I would spend more time planning my life than living my life, because I felt like I could control that. And she hates it, because to her, every time she writes a goal, if she doesn't follow through with it, it's just a reminder that she failed. So she's like, gag me with that. And I've kind of abandoned that a little bit, but I still do believe in planning. We talked about distinguishing between perceptions and reality, and those being the cause of our stress. Often because we write stories. We think because this is the way it is today, we start writing this story, and we get really worked up about something that doesn't even come to pass. So we talked about being perceptive and really seeing what's around us. We talked about this infinite loop of powerless. When we go to the past, we get stuck in that, or when we go in the future, we worry about things that we can't control, waste a lot of time and energy. All we can do is live in the present. Just today, you're athletic. Today, you're a healthy eater. Today, you're a healthy person. And tomorrow, you're gonna try to improve just a little bit more. Then we did that exercise on eating mindfully, and hopefully, did anybody learn anything from that? What? Tell me something you learned about that. Yes?
I learned that I never really tasted my food.
Yeah.
I would just go through
Just
the
shoving
list
it
and
in,
I
right?
went to-
Yeah. Anybody else have anything come to, any enlightenment come? Yes?
I don't chew my food.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And actually, when you chew the food, that's when you release the enzymes and you really help the digestive process to get all those nutrients out. Yes, sir?
I learned that a raspberry you can't chew 20 times.
Yeah, I know. Don't you hate those seeds at a raspberry? I know, they're so healthy, but I hate the seeds. They hurt my teeth. Yes?
And it tastes better.
Tastes better, yeah. Did any of you have a hard time taking a bite and putting the fork out of, like, oh gosh, now what do I do? I gotta shovel it in, right? Keep it going. Yes?
I felt more full.
Yes. It doesn't take in yours. Yeah.
I didn't think I'd feel like that.
Yeah, we had a Dr. Exley kind of look-alike in our Fit for Life class early on, and she's the one that taught me this. If you go get a sandwich and a soup someplace and you eat like that, you'll eat half the bowl of soup and half the sandwich, and you'll be satisfied. You'll cut your caloric intake in half. But most of us are shovel it in before my brother eats it all or something. Okay, so the assignments for this week. So we don't want you to eat out. Why do I not want you to do that? You can't control what, like, if I don't pack my lunch and I go to work, the only option I have is to either not eat or eat what the cafeteria tells me they're gonna give me, which isn't always healthy, right? So this is about being really intentional. And then I want you to drink plenty of water. I know it doesn't always taste great, and there was some talk on the Facebook page about what can we put in it. I don't really care what you put in it, but just realize, be careful with artificial sweeteners because they may not be the best thing for you. But if that's what it takes, a little, I don't know, what Crystal Light or something, to drink that much water, maybe that's not a bad thing. But we really need to be hydrated. And then tell me the 3 reasons why I want you to fast for 24 hours. Do you remember?
To know when you're hungry.
To understand what that hunger signal is like, because we think we're hungry when we're really not, we're bored. Okay, excellent. Was another reason. Yes?
Give your body a rest.
Give your intestinal tract a rest. Everything else gets a rest. Give your GI tract a rest. Okay, excellent. There's a 3rd reason, remember what that was? It definitely will increase metabolism, that's right. It'll shut down the ghrelin that makes you want to eat, it'll lower your insulin, that will increase your metabolism. And the other reason was to be mindful when you're fasting, right? Because sometimes we're on the phone with somebody or we're doing something else and we're putting food in our mouth and not even aware of it. And you'll catch yourself like, what am I doing? So those are the 3 or 4 reasons why I think it's really important you do that. So don't be afraid of this, because next week you're going to tell us that it wasn't near as bad as you thought. You think 3 or 4 hours into this you're going to starve, right? And the reason you think that is because your brain's telling you that. Because that hormone ghrelin in your brain says, holy cow, it's been 3 hours and you haven't eaten. The last time you ate was a candy bar and a Coke, and I'm used to that sugar. Feed me, feed me, feed me. And you're going to be really hungry. And then that'll suppress, the appetite will go away, then it'll come back a couple hours later. So it's being aware of that and suppressing that. So you'll get through it. And then by about the 20th hour, you'll start to realize, okay, this is kind of what hunger feels like. That other stuff was my brain screaming at me and I just ignored it. If you're diabetic and you take pills for your diabetes, just don't take your pills that 24 hours. If you're on insulin, I wouldn't take any of the fast-acting insulin during that fast and maybe cut your long-acting insulin in half. If there's some reason you can't do a 24-hour fast, then give up something else for 24 hours that stretches you and reminds you, okay, I'm making a sacrifice here, because you'll learn a lot about just becoming more aware. Okay, and so next week we're going to talk about how to change the chemistry and the connections in our brain, how to heal our emotions and our thoughts, to change those scripts that we all succumb to and that really interfere with our efforts to heal. Did you have anything, Kelly?
We have some questions from the home audience, and if anyone here has any questions about chapter 2.
Okay, yeah, I thought I had a, did I skip that slide?
I think you did.
Did I go,
think
did you
forgot
see it? Or I didn't put it in there? Oh, I didn't put it in. I had a slide that said, questions from week 2, so it's not there. Okay, anybody have questions? Yes.
Back to the nitrous oxide, if it expands your vessels, can it dislodge or
No. And doctor, dislodge the plaque?
dislodge it or
No.
get rid of it?
No, it won't do, well, it'll slow down the development of atherosclerosis because those white blood cells won't invade the wall of the artery like he was saying. I just listened to what Dr. Bryan said. He said it will not lower your blood pressure too much. Now, in Debbie's case, it did because she was already on blood pressure medicine. So this is what your body does when you walk up a hill and your legs are like, you're really using me. I need more blood flow. Every time the blood squirts through the artery, it stretches it, and the artery says, oh, she needs more blood flow. Let's do this so she can get plenty of blood to her exercising calf. And it does that through nitric oxide. So that's what it's trying to do. But it will not lower it too much, and it won't dislodge anything. Yes?
I'm on 3 blood pressure pills, and when I'm in pain, my blood pressure will go up to 200, 220.
Yes.
And will the nitric oxide help with that?
It probably won't help your pain, no. But it should help with your blood pressure. So you just have to be aware, like Debbie was. It was getting too low. We've had a lot of people in Fit for Life have that same problem. Or their blood sugar gets low and they're getting shaky. You're healing. You don't need as much blood pressure medicine. You don't need as much blood pressure or blood sugar medicine. So just be aware of those things as you start to change your diet, because you'll see that it's working. Yes?
Last week we had snow, Sunday and Monday. Tuesday morning I went out and shoveled. Wednesday I had a sore thing in the back of my leg. Boy, I thought it was a pulled muscle. My leg was swollen. Next morning it was still swollen. Went to the doctor, had an ultrasound, and they said I have a blood clot in my leg and put me on Eliquis?
Yeah.
Eliquis. How about this stuff? Can I use this?
Yeah, what, the nitric oxide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will it conflict with
No,
the other?
that's the cool
Will
thing
it
about
help?
this. It's nitric oxide is what your body makes.
Okay.
You're just not making as much as you used to. Not gonna hurt anything. When we talk about hormones, it's the same thing. Your body makes hormones. We're just gonna optimize them. Nothing foreign. Yes.
But
It's a supplement, can you get a prescription, it might be cheaper?
No, it's not a prescription, it's a supplement. Now, Dr. Bryan did something really interesting with this. He said, okay, this all makes sense physiologically. Let's look at mother's milk and see if nature confirms my theory. Because what he's saying is when you eat green leafy vegetables and you chew them up really well, they have nitrate in them. The mixed greens and asparagus and all this have nitrates. Your mouth, when you chew it well, the mouth has bacteria on the tongue that's supposed to be there that converts the nitrate into nitrite. Then you swallow the nitrite and your stomach acid converts the nitrite to nitric oxide. That's how you should get it in your diet. We eat only half of the greens that we should, so we don't get enough. But we do some bad things that interfere with making nitric oxide from green leafy vegetables. We scrub the back of our tongue, we use mouthwash. We kill those bacteria. They did a study with dental students. They said, I want you to use mouthwash twice a day. After a week's time, 30% of the dental students had high blood pressure because they weren't able to make nitric oxide from their diet. The other thing we do is we take heartburn medicine, we take Tums for heartburn, and we take a stomach pH of 2 and we neutralize it because we got heartburn to a pH of 7, and now you can't convert nitrite into nitric oxide in the stomach. So we mess ourselves up big time treating all these symptoms. So what he said is, we did a study on breast milk, and the first 4 days in breast milk, the breast milk has nitrite in it. There's no nitrate. Why would breast milk have no nitrate? Well, babies, when they're first born, their intestinal tract is pretty sterile. There's not a lot of bacteria there. So they can't convert nitrate to nitrite in the mouth. So it's not there. But by the 4th or 5th day, now they've got their GI tract colonized, they can take that nitrate that's now going to be put in breast milk, convert it to nitric oxide. So Mother Nature has already taught us how this works. No nitrate in breast milk until the 4th day when a baby can use it correctly. So it's all excellent science, and that's how we keep our blood pressure down. That's how we increase our blood flow. I had a guy with emphysema, 4 liters of oxygen. I said, you need nitric oxide to help you breathe better. So he started taking it twice a day. Comes back to see me 3 weeks later. He goes, I can breathe better, and my little friend down in my, is sticking up. Not everybody has that response, but it tells us how important just restoring natural physiology is. And if you can't do it with diet, there's a way to supplement it. Yes?
Andy had a question about the dopamine. When you showed the 4 brains last week, the alcohol-addicted brain was shrunken.
Yes.
Was that the dopamine?
What chicken or the egg? Was the brain short of dopamine before the addiction? Or did the addiction cause?
That's a good question, right? Because some people are just depressed because they're not making dopamine, and alcohol helps them with the depression. I don't know if I can answer it, but the brain is clearly different. Whether you're an alcoholic or a cocaine user, we're trying to reason with these people with normal brains. There's no way we're going to connect because we try to talk to them like, hey, stop doing that. They just want to feel decent. I mean, they feel awful without those drugs.
Maybe they always didn't have a normal brain.
It could be. We know that 10% of the population has the propensity to become alcoholic with the first couple of beers. That's why it's dangerous when you go to college and you're going to these parties. Most kids will be okay with it, but some will become alcoholic immediately, especially if it's in your family line. Any other questions?
I have a
Okay.
couple questions from the virtual audience. Can anyone take the Neo 40? Is it like a vitamin and it can be taken safely by anyone?
Yes.
You might repeat that question. 'Cause
Okay, so the Neo 40 can be taken safely by anybody, but again, if you're on blood pressure medicine, just watch that you don't get lightheaded because your blood pressure's come down. When you take this, it dissolves in your mouth. About 10 minutes later, you'll belch. That gas that you're belching is the nitric oxide. Now you know it's working.
Will it help asthma patients? I think you just answered that.
It should. The thing is try it, right? I tell people to try it for 3 months, and then you decide if you think it's benefiting you, and if it's not, it's a pretty pricey supplement to take if you're not convinced it's working.
Does Neo 40 have a 10-year track record for safety?
I don't know how long the track record is. I don't think it's 10 years. I'm guessing it's at least 5. But he's been researching this for 20 years, and he works at Baylor University in the hospital there with physicians, and they're using this with NICU patients, with babies with pulmonary hypertension and other lung problems, and are having great success with it. Okay. Yes, Deb.
Not that I really wanna talk again, but I thought it was important to say, actually I was fortunate enough to be in a program when counseling was available. I did the Fit for Life program back a few years ago, and that's kind of what opened the door for me, because I needed to go to counseling, but that opened the door, and I went to the 3 counseling sessions, and after I did, I realized that I could have went all along with my insurance, and it would have been like $20. So, I suffered for a long time. So, if you're wondering about money, check into your insurance if you need to talk to somebody. Not everybody needs to. I needed to. So, just something to think about.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Yes, one more question.
If you damage them, like say I damaged mine so far, but now I'm on track to do racing, can you repair that? Or do you
It-
just slow down the process?
It's not a repair process, it's slowing down how fast you shorten it. And that's what all the healthy lifestyles do. Slows the aging process.
Will it help a leaky bicuspid valve?